Yeah, absolutely. Likewise. Yeah, I've enjoyed our conversations as well. So, yeah, so I'd just like to start off this live by telling everyone, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today, whether you're going to be here now or on the replay. And I'd just like to, of course, my name's Zach Cater, and I'd just like to introduce none other than Stephanie Enora Perez, who myself and Stephanie, we've been in contact now for, well, we first met a few months back when we first started looking at the United Healing Collective group and setting that up.
Absolutely.
And yep. And since then we're all kind of getting together and trying to interview each other at the moment to kind of get to know each other and to form the group. But so this is what we're doing now. And I'd just like to take this time now just to ask you some questions, because I'm really intrigued about, really fascinated to listen to your press kit bio that you sent over, and it was really interesting things, and I bet you've been on quite a journey with that, so it's quite fascinating stuff. So I'd like to ask you some questions, if I may, please.
Oh, certainly. Thank you so much. Welcome anything you've got for me.
Of course. Okay, so yeah, first of all, let's just start with, so the audience can get to know you a bit better. Yeah, so just a bit of an introduction, really. So I'll if you'd like, I'm actually going to say your bio because I think it's brilliant and you've written it very well. So Enora is many things, to include a psychic medium, trance channeler, an angelic communicator, ordained minister with the Universal Life Church, and a fairy woman able to feel the presence of oncoming death, thus guiding the transition of spirit across the veil. Enora was trained as a Reiki energy healer and holds several spiritual attunement styles in her field. She performs home and land clearings using curandesimo practices and often utilizes percussion instruments.
Yes, it's actually called curandismo, and curandismo is a Spanish word, and the first part of the word curan means, in Spanish, it means to heal, and curandismo is the action of healing.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's amazing. Okay, I that's actually my second. I think it's my it's coming up as my third question, because that was like the one thing that pointed out to me. I was like, I would think there's some people that would love to hear more about that. So we'll get onto that in a bit. So yeah, and using percussion instruments and sound frequencies in healing sessions. So this incredible assortment of skills that you have there, and I think that's amazing. I'll just go on and read the last part here. Just Enora has studied shamanism, 5D quantum healing, remote viewing, EFT tapping, and has learned to perform psychic surgery to spiritually remove a series of illnesses and embedded ET implants. Her work as a psychic medium is greatly impacted by the mentorship of Veronica Drake, the guidance of Eric Medus, and friendship of Kim Voigt, and the support of many in the spiritual community. So, wow. Yeah, so thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So, absolutely. And of course, she wrote.
Here's the thing, and regardless of all the jargon, the main aspect of who I am and what I am is I consider myself a healer. And so I just people. That's the main caveat of being this person and studying all these things and learning all the different techniques and approaches, because I just want to help people.
Beautiful. Yeah. Oh, it's magic. Absolutely. And I can tell it really comes through, and from when we've been talking as well, like I've got that from you, you're always helping people. And that really leads me on to my next question, I suppose, and this would be interesting. What is the most exciting thing you're focused on in your life right now? Exciting
I will
for you.
tell you, Zach, I have so many different side projects going on at the same time, and I really keep myself busy. So there's really not a ton of downtime, and when there is, I'm creating. I'm always creating something. So if in my downtime I'm to play the ukulele, something I picked up
Awesome.
to add instruments because I love music. I'm painting, I'm drawing, I'm sketching, and that's just part of my self-care. Because if I help others, I need to help myself as well. So that's an aspect of it. But the most exciting things happening right now, I would say, I'm working with groups of children. So these parents and their children who are showing signs of psychic abilities, because I was a psychic child, didn't have a lot of support. It's really a difficult road for me to navigate. The other thing I'm currently working on is hosting a women's Sacred Sisters Psychic Circle that happens every month, and it's actually I allow members to sign up for an entire month, and it's 3 to 4 times a month, so it's a commitment week. And so we gather in community, and I help people and train people so that they can utilize their abilities, because it's not me who's just special. We're all special. We just need a little bit of encouragement, and we need empowerment so that we can tap in and embrace who we truly are and just divinely walk past. So I'm doing that right now. I've actually got something really exciting that is about to take place too. I have a guide, and we've named him ACE. We are doing a thing called the ACE Project, and that is angelic celestial expansion. And what it is it's going to be also healing circles on a monthly basis. Yep. Reason why is because one of the guides is an angel. This is actually helping him, and in turn it's helping me because he's expanding his gifts as well. See, even on the other side, we continue learning.
Absolutely.
We're all at different levels and capacity. So that's a big one. But that is soon, and that is starting in April. So right now we're just laying down the foundation and getting everything situated. Mm-hmm.
That's
So let's
amazing.
think
Wow,
about that.
that's quite incredible.
It's an angelic guide who's expanding.
Yes. Yes. That's it. They're literally, it's like they're seeing through the perspectives that you're and the life that you're living. They're able to literally experience what you're experiencing as well, to be able to learn from, and they'll see perspectives they've never seen before. So they're learning just as much as we are, even though they can see all the different timelines at once.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because this is giving them an experience as well. And it's helping me to broaden and expand my experience with interacting with different levels of energy, because they all produce such a different there's diversity in what they provide and they step forward. I've been seeing angels since I was a little girl, so I've had a lot of interaction with them, and that's in addition to like light beings and spirit and their energy. So.
Oh, yeah, that really ties in with my next question, because it's amazing how these things link together, or they can link together. So what was the seed that planted the path that's led you to where you are now?
That's a great question. I feel like there's seeds that
Yeah.
planted the path. I will tell you, my earliest recall was seeing the angel in the corner of my bedroom when I was a little girl. Also, when my stepfather transitioned, I was a teenager, kind of a late teenager, probably 17 or 18 years old, and I actually saw him and my stepfather and my grandfather sitting at our dining room table. Now, my grandfather had passed on, probably about 20 odd years back then, and so they were just hanging out and playing cards with each other. And my stepfather actually transitioned that very night. They found his remains the next day, so that was a trigger.
Yeah, right.
And
Wow.
then,
Yeah.
and then so 9/11 was a huge. That was one of probably one of the bigger triggers, that was one of the bigger seeds that were planted. During 9/11, I lived in New York City, and I also worked at a Montessori school with children. So I was very involved with children, and I was a college student. So that morning, I went to college in the downtown area. And that morning, I got this really terrible, eerie feeling that something was just not right at all. And so I arrived at work, and no sooner did I arrive at work, I actually, we had a little television, and there was like a news flash. I looked at the television, which made me go to and look outside, and I started seeing from the towers and all of the tragedy that was occurring. And so I remained as calm as possible. And then I went outside and I went downstairs. And I remember just standing on the corner of the street in Manhattan. And I was looking down the avenue and watching people walk up the avenue with soot and dust and dirt and human remains on them, and all this stuff. And I remember just standing there, and this feeling was just, it encompassed me, it surrounded me, and I could see visually spirit walking with human beings, like their team, their group, their people with them. I get the chills right now thinking about that. But big thing too, on the corner and watching this woman just walk up to me, total stranger, and she just gave me the biggest hug, and she's like, I am so alive. Sorry.
Oh.
And that, yeah, so that was huge for me. And yeah, totally. And I was a college student, and as a result, after that, I graduated from college, and I had more unfortunate life, and I located down south. So on April 1st of 2012, I decided to have a wedding. So nice. I was in line. Yeah, in line with my partner to, get married. We were having an April Fool's wedding, and boy, was I feeling like a fool that day.
No.
Because on that day, my biological father, who I was very, very, very close with, he transitioned, and he never made it. So wow. That was another. So, but that was actually the biggest seed, because my father and I were very, very close. And no sooner did he transition, having lots of spiritual experiences with him. I would see him in my home. I would just speak to him. I would hear him. So, and he still visits me. And for me, it's as if he's never really left. He's a vessel in body, but he has helped me so much, like graduate. I call it graduate, just graduate to where I am. And through his positive influence, and he's one of my ancestral guides as well. Mm-hmm. It's catapulted me into who I am. I just wanted to be a better person as a result of that. And I wanted to share with people, the gifts that I have, but I keep expanding so that I could help more people.
Yes, absolutely.
And, my father was also a healer in his own way. He was a radio technician, and he would X-ray people in the room of the hospital in New York. And I used to visit him as a kid, and I was fascinated by watching his hands change color as he was placing patients and turning the table and turning the X-ray cassettes and moving things. I would literally see his hands illuminate. And that's another thing that dawned on me.
Sure. So you start questioning the whole of reality, and you start thinking, is this really solid?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And why is it, watching someone's body illuminate. And then the other aspect of it is I started noticing even more so people's auras. And that was huge. That was like a huge confirmation for me. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I really need to figure this out and get a handle on it, because my senses were out of control. They were so, I didn't even know where to begin or what to do with them.
Of course. Did your ego? How long did your ego take to catch up with everything that you were experiencing? Did you integrate and ground it quite quickly, or?
So it took me a while because I was actually very afraid of it. I was very afraid of it. I grew up extremely Catholic, a very strong religious belief system. So I do not actually practice a religion at this time, just because for me, an individual, I feel like I'm too restricted if I do. And that doesn't seem to help me as much. And as a result of that, I've actually studied some other religions and some other philosophies just to have a more broad and well-rounded idea of what life was really about.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of the term omnist is something that I plucked out of the collective consciousness a few years ago, and is something that I stand by as like taking the true, to me, aspects of all the religions. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. It seems to be a theme that I've noticed, where people seem to have their spiritual awakenings through, it's like this, normally the catalyst is like a really significant moment in their life, like the passing of a family member, or like grief or something like that, something intense. And it's incredible you said about how that point where you were getting married that day, but also your dad passed away on that same day, and how that must have been, yeah, as you said, that was the biggest seed to, in a way of putting it for you. And it's, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Incredible. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you see, it's kind of like it's a give and take. We're constantly balancing, the 4Ds. So my mentor, who I love dearly, Veronica, she talks about 4Ds and things that trigger you. We talk about this, and you're exactly right. It's like death, disease, divorce, and disaster.
Yeah.
That'll do it to you.
Good point. They're all D's.
So,
Yeah, that's a good yeah, that's on
4D.
point. Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
they will. Yeah, I like that. And they will. All of those will. Yeah, very good point. Absolutely. Cool. Wow. Yeah, quite so I suppose, yeah. Oh, that's incredible. I'm really intrigued as well about this. I'm gonna butcher this again. Curandesimo. Sorry, the Spanish.
Curanderismo. That's okay. That's okay.
Curanderismo.
Curanderismo. Yeah. So I was
So
actually so my family, we are comprised of we have Native South American and indigenous people in my family. My family roots from that, and I was raised also in a Caribbean culture of being Puerto Rican as well. Okay, so I have that. So I've learned how to be very in touch with the earth, and I was adopted by by a very beautiful Native family who love me very much, and they have taught me a lot as well. And so really, healing and curanderismo there's different forms and there's different aspects of this, and it has to do with different methods or different styles of healing. So you can do herbalism is a part of curanderismo as well, okay? Because it's about the land, cupping, massage, certain touching. Now I've learned a lot about this. What I'd actually like to learn a little bit more about is restructuring physical bones. This is just something that's piqued my interest. I've seen healers do this, like, resetting arms, resetting legs into place. I've always had an interest in that. So that's something I'd like to study more. That's on my radar. But in addition to that, spiritual clearing and spiritual cleansing of people's physical and energetic bodies and their auric fields. Okay, so that's a bit too. You could say that curandero really is many forms of healing, known as other things. As human beings, we take a word and we have multiple meanings for it, or we restyle it somehow to another person's views. But really, it all comes down to healing. It just has a more of a Spanish root or a native indigenous root. It's being in touch with the earth. Okay, the heartbeat of Mother Earth, understanding how the land works, working with animals. That's another thing that I love doing. I love, going to visit my native family and playing with the horses and petting them, and just dealing with dogs and cats, sheep, lamb, you name it. I love the whole barnyard. Animals are they're so innocent too. Their energy is really pure, and so it's just it's beautiful to be around them. So I love all of those. Just I feel like I am getting more in touch with how to be more of a naturalist and taking more holistic and approaches to this. And the other thing that I've been really passionate about that I forgot to mention, because it kind of relates to this, is I love to do property clearings. It's been a lot of fun. And so I've been on some really interesting cases.
Yes. And that was really my point of looking into the house clearing side of things. So what has been your kind of most interesting house clearing you've done? Did you see things like stuff like that, or what happened?
Oh yes. So it's like all of the psychic senses are actively engaged. So I actually had a very interesting one that I performed in Union, South Carolina, and it was a property that was probably more than, I'd say, 160 years old. And so it was a very large land. It's probably about 25 land, and it had a main house on it, and you could see the remnants of the old, or you could see the structure of where things used to be in terms of like foundational place. So in visiting this home, I learned just by stepping on the property that this was a place where they had Civil War soldiers, had encampments. In the house, actually saw like spirit reenacted something for me, and that was that they had a white hospital where they used to help the soldiers. So I saw nurses walking back and forth helping soldiers where limbs were amputated as well. The property itself, the owners were a family of wealth and prominence, and they actually had African descendant slaves who were enslaved on the property and worked as farm hands and caregivers of the. I actually encountered some families while I was there, and I found the remains of some basically like buried children and some other aspects of that. In addition to that, the property had Native American spirits on it, and I could see. It was really interesting. I actually saw a Native American man morph from man to bear, and bear to man came close to me, and we had a dialogue.
Wow.
So it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. And the house itself was fascinating. The interior
I
was
bet. Yeah.
fascinating. Inside of the house, we found old bottles in the basement wall because the generations of the families, they were bootleggers also. So they were bootlegging alcohol. So we found really old bottles with alcohol. Some were cracked and there might have been one that was whole that we found, and you could tell because they were very old-fashioned bottles. They had wax on them still, and they had like old writing. Labels were tattered and stuff. But it was really interesting. So that was a super fun experience to help a lot of the spirits that were kind of stuck there, because they kept reenacting things.
Sure.
So things kept kind of stuck in a cycle. So it was nice to help them carry over. And when it was said and done, the owner just got this huge sensation. She's like, whew, I can finally breathe now. Like, it doesn't feel so heavy in here.
Thank goodness for that. Yeah, that's really, really good. That's a fantastic confirmation, of course. And it sounds like your clair senses are very, very, very heightened. And I suppose that's not claircognizance, that's clairvoyance, isn't it? When you can see with your third eye. Is that the right clair?
So all of my clairs are actively engaged. Before, like when I was a kid, I was only clairvoyant. And throughout the years, I actually worked on all of my clairs actively engaged. And the big thing that helped me was channeling healing. So as I learned Reiki and all this stuff, my clairsentience kicked up, my clairaudience kicked up, my cognizance, clear knowing kicked up, aliens clicked up. I could smell spirit. Boy, do I. And my clairgustance kicked up. I taste things that spirit put in front of me also. I'll give you an example of that. I find who came to me, and before she arrived, her husband arrived in spirit, and he arrived, and I could smell the most delicious Italian bread. I mean, it took over all of my senses, and I could taste snickerdoodle cookies. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know who you brought through the door, but this gentleman has just satisfied all my senses. And the woman started to cry. And she started to cry because her husband owned a bakery, and he was a pastry chef and a baker.
Amazing, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. And the Snickers, some kind of nutty combination he had going on at one point. That's beautiful. Wow, that's incredible. It's like a really good reminder, I suppose, to myself. Really, it's just like meditate more and keep practicing, and you'll kind of continue developing these senses. So yeah, it's really interesting, sticking along the lines of the kind of the clair senses. So how did you feel? This is kind of a strange question. How did you feel when you first realized that you'd sensed oncoming death around you? What happened in that situation? And was that
I was in
9/11?
denial.
No.
Well, actually, so I've sensed oncoming death even prior to that. I had a friend in high school, and this is interesting. Her father, unfortunately, had a heart attack, and he passed away in their home. And years prior to that, I went to visit her in her home, and all of a sudden, I was standing in her kitchen, and I got the most excruciating chest pain of my life, where I almost wanted to fall down to my knees. And what that was is it was her father who had a heart attack. And I literally felt every single aspect of that. And that was a huge confirmation for me. Then after that point, I was like, I really have how to get a handle on this. That changed everything. because it shocked me so much. And I actually felt pain, and I felt every single experience, and I saw it happen, like it got reenacted for me in the space. And I knew I had to do something about it. So I went on a mission after that.
Sure. Did the heart attack, when it happened and when you felt it, were they both at the same point in linear time, or different at different times?
No, they weren't. They were at different times. They were at different times. He had transitioned years before. It's just that I hadn't made that face-to-face contact with her in an extended period of time.
Sure.
And when I finally did, he came through right away. He did not skip a beat.
Yeah, and it was the same room where...
It was the same room. And what it is spirit. Here's the thing about spirit that people don't always understand. When we transition, do you see how I am, that I'm very, and you also are open and you have an awareness? When we transition, it's easier for us to communicate on the other side. So let's say, for example, it's due to our evolution and our openness. We have an idea of consciousness already. So I'll give you a quick example. My mother had a wonderful friend, a lifelong friend, and she actually, unfortunately, just recently passed away due to COVID. And she transitioned around 8 o'clock in the morning. By 10 o'clock or 10:30 in the morning, I already saw her pop into my office. Bye. And I heard her, and she knew how to communicate. It was that quickly. But not everyone is able to do so, because they are also learning on the other side. So your evolution here and your expansion also determines how messages are conveyed to mediums. So some people think that a medium is going to automatically hear the spirit that transitions over. Not necessarily true, because that spirit might also be learning how to communicate. And vibrationally, they might not be a match.
Yeah, that's it. Might just be coming in as like the kind of same repeated like issue they had just before they transitioned. They'll just keep repeating that on a loop, like in the film Soul, like kind of. Yeah. That's really, I like how you put it as well. It's what I've come to understand as well. It's like, with, say, for example, yours and other people watching this right now, just by having the kind of like a level of consciousness where you're aware of the non-physical, and then when we do transition, it's like, I know personally, I know that when I'll come to transition, I got a feeling it's probably going to be like in my sleep, or it's going to be a peaceful transition, or I don't know, it's not going to be harsh, but I know that I'll probably know that it's coming. I have this sense that I'll know that it's going to come. And when I do, what I'll do is I'll just, I know that when I transition, I'll know that I'll be going, my intention is to just get have my angels come and pick me up basically and take me where I need to be going. And just with that intention, like, I'm not going to get left behind anywhere, anything like that, because I know where I'm going. So yeah, I've completely, very well said. Thank you.
Absolutely. And the other aspect is there's no guilt, like, transitioning into the light. And also that's part of our belief system. I've had to clear properties with spirit who feel so ashamed of the things that they did when they were living, in soul, that they refuse to leave their loved ones, or they refuse to leave their homes, because for them it was a very safe place. So it has actually limited their growth, because they hold on to suppressed feelings of shame. When I go and do clearings, I literally talk to spirit, and I tell them that I literally wave the white flag. I come in peace. This is about love. I'm not here to harm you or keep you out of anything. I just want to show you that you can expand and you can talk to others just like me, and you're work here on Earth, it might be done already, and it's time for you to graduate so you can learn more and be of service in a different way, just like we're doing right now.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah, and they're all going to be on their individual journeys, and I suppose that there's even some souls that will hang around in the same spot in space and time for thousands of years, like not incarnating again, or yeah, there's every extreme you can possibly imagine, isn't there? So yeah,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
incredible.
And there's so many different levels and layers to that. I think of Inferno, except without the Inferno.
Yeah,
because especially with that movie with Robin Williams, because of all the colors and all the bee and the animal acting. Truly, when I see or I see colors that do not exist in the spectrum of light that we're accustomed to seeing. So me, when I look at you, you are so radiant and bright. I'm just like, hey. It brings me joy because it does, Zach, because I've literally seen people where they have brown or in their aura as well, and they're not radiating the same amount of joy. It's kind of like,
oh wow, yeah.
Think about a piece of Swiss cheese as the human body, and they have all of those holes in it, right? So as we heal, we're closing those holes and we're putting more layers of cheese on it, right? And so those holes are being covered. But as we move on, if we don't heal, those holes are exposed. And so what's happening? Our light is leaving us through those holes. And when light leaves us, that's what creates those darker colors.
Yes.
So this is what I see in people.
All of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So much dense trapped emotions stored for lifetimes. And do you see, when you look at a baby, do you see those same kind of Swiss cheese holes? Ever?
You know, it depends how the baby. It's possible. It depends how the baby is born. I will say that I've seen a child addicted to drugs, though they have beautiful lights and beautiful colors. There are instances where the light escaping from them.
Yeah.
It's like having it's like having a coffee cup, and it's like your favorite mug, and you know you're gonna have an amazing coffee, but then all of a sudden the mug gets a crack in it and it starts leaking, and you want to drink as fast as you can so it doesn't all fall. That's kind of how the light leaves them also. And they maintain a certain level of light, and depending on their guides and what their path is, they'll put a patch on it for babies. I've seen this. I've seen where like some children they're saved, and they place like these little bubbles on them, and it's really beautiful too. And sometimes what ends up happening that I've noticed is as babies, as they grow into older children and adults, sometimes our guides, they will remove that little patch from you because you will have to deal with your experience. You're still living your experience. So you might only carry that little patch that leaves your light from escaping a little while. That's another aspect of it.
Sure. Yeah, that's it. The training wheels come off. And I suppose in some ways that kind of stuff can happen where, because humanity on Earth has been through so much, like some collectives have a perspective that it's even been too much. And so I can totally understand how babies and young children might be patched like that just to get them through to a certain stage until they can, but there's again an unlimited number of different reasons why that would occur. So yeah, that's incredible. So going into that, I love this incredible. So many people that I've met in recent years who have these incredible clair abilities. And I know in myself that's something I'm working with as well. And it's, I think in the last few months and the last year, it's like a switch has turned on, and it's like it's been a lot more clear to me as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For you, I feel you're very clear cognizance, and you have a gift of oration as well, and your writing and the way that you interpret and your visualizations as well. So you're extremely clear cognizance. I mean, I knew that from interacting with you, because sometimes it's like you know, but you don't know how you know it.
Sure.
And
Yeah, that's a very
it's like it's like a mind dump. It just boom, like all of a sudden, like this fascinating idea just hits you, and you're like, "Ooh, I'm plugged in." Kind of like the Matrix. Let me get this out real quick. I got to get this out before I forget it.
yeah, right. That's absolutely
And it registers. That's how it registers, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And here's my one thing for that is, if you feel that you have a strong one of the clairs, whatever is your strongest clair you feel, work on that one the most and use it as a foundation to step into the others, because my strongest clair was really clairsentience. I saw things my whole life. I'm very clairvoyant. But boy, would I feel some spirit constantly. And so I worked on my clairsentience very, very, very much. And I learned different healing modalities. And boy, once I learned how to start channeling energy, it came like this. The more clients and stuff or people that would come to me, I'd be like, oh, I can do this. This is no problem. Let's do it. And I would get just excited about it. And
that's it.
And I began to trust myself with it. And so with my other clairs, I would say, you know what? I would repeat to myself, I can see, I can hear, I can feel, I can taste, I can smell, I can see, I can hear, I can feel, I can taste, I can smell. And I would remind myself, I was like, this is just a little fraction of what I'm able to do. And that goes for everyone.
Absolutely. They're incredibly powerful beings. So I love that as well. It's that constant reinforcement, and it's like building you up and up, like saying that I can do this, I've got all these senses, and it's just, I love that how you built up your confidence as well. And in terms of channeling, so I first found channeling in 2014, like to actually took it and understood it for what it kind of was for the first time in 2014. And since that time, really 2015 till now, it's just been my kind of like, it's like every human ego's perspective I kind of put here, and then all the channel perspective I've always kind of put on a pedestal, but like, there's always been a balance as well, because even channeled stuff is down to interpretation, it's down to the filters of the conduit and all of that stuff. So it's, but it's just interesting how I love that, how you found your confidence when you really got into the channeling. Because I know for myself, in my situation, I've had various different prompts, both internally and externally, telling me that I'm going to be channeling at some point, and it's something that I know I want to practice more. And I just love how much value I personally have got from channeling sessions one-on-one over the time. So yeah, and it's given me a little click in my mind about what you just said about how it's really helped you in terms of helping people and confidence. So that's awesome. That's really cool. And leading on very nicely to my next question, actually, can you give me an example of the beings or collectives that you trans-channel, please?
Oh, absolutely. So trans-channeling, I've been trans-channeling for, I'd say, probably 3.5 years. First, I tried to really get my channeling down, where I had spirit step into my space and we'd have a discussion, just like you and I. And so what I also want to add is, as we grow and develop, our guides rotate in and out. So I have a little joke with my guides, and when I'm getting a new guide or someone who's helping me develop a skill set or something that I just really desire to learn more about or strengthen, I get an image of the guards of Buckingham Palace. So they show me that there's a changing of happening. Okay. And so, and that's my visual cues. You see, this is visual cues. So I just like to add that. The other aspect of it is with trance channeling, I learned first how to trust my guides. Trusting my guides was huge because we are also an extension of our guides, okay? We are also spirit. And so just making a continuation of that circle, when I welcomed in my guides and my guides stepped forward, I had various teaching guides. There was also a guide that came in through an experience. I was briefly on a YouTube show called Channeling Eric, and there was a young gentleman who he transitioned, unfortunately, via suicide. And when he transitioned, he started having communication with various mediums and interpreters. So he would come through, and there was a point in my life where he would come very strongly. He would literally show up right in front of me, show up in my living room, and he'd want to talk to me. He'd show up in my kitchen. He'd walk back and forth and pace in my kitchen, and it would sound like there were footsteps of a young man walking back and forth in my kitchen. And so I learned about him, and he actually helped encourage me to get into the trance channeling more and to step into my power. So we had encouragement from the other side as well. And through building a relationship with him, his name is Eric with a K, through building a relationship with him and through building relationships with my fundamental guides, some of my ancestors, of course, my father was huge. My great granny, who was also on my mother's side, I have a great grandmother who practiced a form of curanderismo as well, and she was very clairvoyant. I had a great aunt who unfortunately was diagnosed as suffering from mental disease, but she would also channel spirit. And there were times where spirit would step into her body and they would speak through her. Now, in my family, just because we were raised Catholic, people thought of this as possession, but there was nothing evil about it. It was just that you had the ability to trance channel. So as a very young child, I witnessed this as well. So experiences kind of shaped the experience that I'm having present day with my guides. And as a result, I've been able to trance channel with angels, channel with part of the Pleiadian Council. I have a very, very close guide. He's one of my guardians as well. And his name is Romulus. And his counterpart, her name is Rima. And they help me with channeling healing as well, because I will utilize the help of different guides depending on the healing situation that I'm in as well. Not everyone needs an angelic healing. Some people are far more cosmic in their energy. Okay, they have a different flow. So I ask them who it is that needs to come in for this experience. Now, with trance channeling, again, as I've gained confidence and trust with my guides, and I was able to start allowing them to utilize my vessel and also make a deal with my guides. So because they're so high energy, and it does take energy from the medium for the trance channeling to occur as well, because it's a blending and mixing of energies, I've asked my guides that whenever I trance channel with an energy, also have to give back to me in the sense of helping me to heal. So I cannot do a trance channeling and come out of that feeling completely drained. I just don't allow that, because they're so high energetic frequencies that it's a lot to keep up with. So I have guides that move around quite a bit. I also channel with a young girl, and all her, And Linda is actually a guide that is like a guide of joy. We will trance channel with her. We have had many discussions with her. It's very enlightening. She likes to talk about finances and like government, and she also loves to talk a lot about animals, ecology, and biological, like environmental systems and things of that nature. Romulus, when I do trance channeling with him, he loves to talk about how the world is about to face certain types of either like events and things of this nature. He'll notify me politics at times. He'll notify me of just things that are happening in the world. And then I've also trance channeled. When I do trance channeling with the angels, I really love to just give the entire group messages. Sometimes they give collective messages. In addition to that, I have another guide. His name is Batu. I've Arcturian. So I've channeled and done Arcturian channelings. So I've had a lot of fun doing this. In addition to that, I have native guides as well. And I have ancestor spirits. There's a series of grandmothers that I channel. I have Luana, and I have I have Luana, and I have Jonah, and they basically are like great grandmothers, and they give me a lot of information as well. And ups a daisy on your energy.
Yeah.
And so they're because you have a lot of movement around you. I see them all like, hi, 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 trying to get the camera. It's really funny. And so I even have a guardian and ads and things like that. So I work with a lot of different entities, and I will trans channel with them. I mean, I have monthly trans channeling sessions and private channelings as well. Like, just people want to get into a group and we can do this. And I offer practice sessions to people too, just helping them out, helping them discover what they can do in order to cultivate, further develop this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really I love that. I mean, from everything from the Palladian Council to Arcturian Connection, and then of course spirits as well there that possibly don't even really have a name or even a kind of location, it seems, because they don't really have a location.
Yeah,
Yep,
absolutely. It's not just someone's dead. It's not just someone's dead grandma. I mean, it could literally be anyone or anything. Of course, I do have boundaries. There are certain energies that I would just feel like it would be a lot for me to have them in vessel. So I just channel them just like you and I are talking as well. Really, I leave the trance channeling up to my group of guides that I have come to know and love and trust. And that's where I get like some really enlightening and beautiful content and information from. And they really work with my energy, and the spirit chemists and all of them work with my energy, and they help me with, I even have guides that help me during various healing sessions. So it's full. I love it. I love channeling. I literally eat, sleep, and live being medium. I love it.
It's absolutely incredible. You are on your path, well and truly, and so inspiring, and you're doing a fantastic job. And one question I have is, absolutely, one question I have is, in terms of effectiveness, being human, we all have this thing of constantly trying to improve things, constantly trying to make everything better. It's just naturally the human condition. And in my view, like doing shadow work, inner work, taking yourself, nothing external, just going within and purging it all, loving it all. That to me is like, there's no external practice that can get rid of that kind of karma that we have to face ourselves. But so for me, that personally, that's like right at the top of the list in terms of effectiveness in bringing a person up. What would you say from your experience is the most effective healing that
Definitely.
you offer?
The most effective healing that I offer really depends on who's sitting in session with me. But I will tell you that on a personal level, I am a survivor of sexual molestation and multiple rape. And so I love helping people who have been in these situations as well, because I've learned how to heal from it, and I've really learned how to navigate that flow. So I empathize with it, I sympathize with it. I mean, I don't judge it. And really, it's about healing from, and just as you're saying, understanding those, because if I didn't work on that myself, I wouldn't be able to have those kind of clients and successfully help them. And so that's huge for me. Also, working with the kids, it's the fear factor. You know, how many times have you heard someone tell you, you better go to bed, if not the monster under the bed's going to get you, or you know, or you
Yeah, the
better watch
mind.
the closet. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So our minds like trip out because we have so much, so many things that are happening and these filters. So it's really eliminating fear-based beliefs so that you can step into your true power. And that's really what I like to do. I like to empower people, because I'm not the only
yeah,
person that can do this. My hope and my dream is for our way of expanded consciousness to be the normal, to be mainstream, because this is what we're all divinely able to do if we would only embrace that without fear.
yes, yeah. And there's quite a lot of cultural, societal, historic conditioning to unpack to get there collectively still. So, but we're getting there. And isn't it beautiful, like how much progress we've made, like over these past years? Mind blown.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I guess a few years ago, I wouldn't have been able to step out in the way that I've stepped out now. And that's
Sure.
because for me, this is normal. This is me being authentic. I'm being my true self. There's nothing to unpack or hide from the world. I have people who love me and people who don't, and that's okay. I help the people who come to me, and that I'm not for everyone, and I'm okay with that. So it's
Yeah.
understanding that people are going to give you criticism. That's okay. Take it with a grain of salt. You can learn from that. You can expand and you can grow. Turn it all around and make it positive for yourself as well. I have loads of people, even family members, that don't quite understand or respect or enjoy the fact that I'm openly this way. And I still love them. It doesn't change things. It just means that they're on their own journey, and I'm not here to change everyone.
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
And you'd be doing the world a dishonor by giving into the fear of other people's expectations of you as well. So good on you. That's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. We need doubters, and we need naysayers, and we need haters. We need that because we need balance. So these things, rather than looking at them as something that is disempowering, I look at it as it's completely empowering. And I'm very thankful for the experience, because in my life, have told me that I wasn't going to be able to do very much, that I was amount to very much, that because of either my skin color or my heritage or the fact that I was a psychic medium, that I wasn't going to get ahead, that people even told me that I must be mentally ill. I mean, I've received so much criticism, and that's only made me move closer and further and just the longevity of things. Like, I feel very empowered. It just helps me. It helps me. I look at it and I'm like, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, that's the best. That really is. Would you say as well, it's like you kind of you've created your own version of, you've created your own social media feeds, whether that's Facebook, anything. Everything is like kind of tailored to you, and it's like the people that you surround yourself with, whether that's in your personal life, social media, and it's like you created Enora's world for yourself, and it's like that whole thing just keeps growing, and you're aware of all of the polarity of this world at the same time, and you realize the more that polarity is pushing it, it's like it's making your world bigger by that becoming bigger. So that's wow.
Absolutely. And Zach, I'm global.
Yeah.
Literally global. I live in South Carolina, and I know people from all across the country and from a multitude of other countries, and it is beautiful. I mean, from one healer to another healer. I mean, you're in a different country as well, and it is we're global at this point. So it's like, this is not, and it's not even about popularity, and it's not about ego. It's about the message, and the message being conveyed is, we can love ourselves, we can love others, we can heal ourselves, we can heal others. And all of us have the opportunity and the chance to be what we are truly meant to be. We just have to accept it. And sometimes that's a really hard thing for people, is acceptance. Because as we accept ourselves more, the world sees that. And some people are so used to rejection, and they're not used to acceptance. So when those ideas are blown out of the water, and it's like, come to me, I love you. People literally have such a different mindset about, they're like, whoa, this girl is tripping. She's just open. And it's the whole thing. It's like, you know what? I'm just spreading love. But we're doing it on a global platform. I mean, I've got Facebook, YouTube videos that I create. I create content. My website right now is having a facelift, so I'm working with a program and a designer, and I'm trying to actually set up some programs for children too. So I'm going to have some content for them and for learning with like animations and stuff. So I'm really, really excited. Hopefully that'll all turn out as I'd like it to, or even better. But that's the thing. It's expanding. It's expanding. And so like Enora's Corner, the reason why I named my website Enora's Corner, and the name Enora as well. Enora was a name that I took as a middle name because I didn't have one when my father transitioned. I actually made a promise to my father that I would continue being me, and that I would step into and grow in my abilities, which was a secret. He knew. My dad knew. No one else did, but he knew. And so Enora actually means to honor. So I'm honoring as I do this. So this work is a way that I honor myself, I honor my father, and I honor life. Okay, so Enora's Corner is like my little corner of the world, my little aspect. This is what I've been able to share, and just the idea and the feelings in my heart are what I am encompassing and what I've come to embrace. So that's me.
Wow. Yeah, that's glowing in all ways. That's beautiful. I love that. Every aspect of what you said there is very authentically aligned. So there we go. Okay, brilliant.
And that's a huge aspect of my tagline too. I tell people, be awesome, be true, be you.
Be you. Yes, I've heard you say that before. I love that one. Yeah, it's like the 4Ds as well. That's a really good one. Yeah, I like that. Good. Okay, so I'm going to ask one last question as we're just around the hour. So if you could do anything in the next 6 months and it was 100% guaranteed it would happen and money was no issue, what would that thing be, whether it was personal, selfish, or selfless world?
I always start a center for children with abilities. My husband laughs about it. We've actually talked about this. And you know how like in the X-Men movie, you know, Professor Xavier has a school for the gifted. That's what I would like to do.
So cool. That's a really, really good idea. Wow.
I mean, I've thought about this. Yeah, I've thought about this, and I would love to open up some kind of learning center or school or facility where people can have one-on-one interaction with other mediums or psychics and just learn how to unfold, specifically children, because they're the future. So if you think about how many children can embrace this and how many family units can embrace this. This is what I currently work. I work with parents who have children with these very unique and special abilities, and breaking the barriers of fear has been the most challenging. But when these kids get to interact with each other online, like in kind of like a B medium circle, and these parents get to interact with each other, their perception of what changes. And having a community and building a support group and having a facility where people can learn even further. I mean, not just children, but adults learn from it too. These moms and dads and grandmas who, you know, are clients of mine, they all come in, and it's amazing. And so that's what I would love to do. School for the gifted.
That's so cool. Yeah, I really love that. I was just imagining children being in that kind of environment, almost like a Sunday school, but no religious ties. And that kind of, what kind of being that's going to cultivate, what kind of person that's going to cultivate to have that kind of learning environment. It's like most people our generation going through school didn't have anything like that. There was no meditation in classrooms like there is in some schools today, things like that. So I think that's absolutely wonderful what you're doing. And as we progress into the coming decades, and we're going to move into more people-powered things in terms of government, banking, education, this is going to be one of those things that is very of its time. So yeah, wonderful stuff. And I wish you every success in that venture. So brilliant.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a huge dream. It's a huge dream for me. I will tell you one thing. Spirit always delivers at the right time. And so I've learned that divine timing, if you have a dream and you have goals, you can manifest the most incredible things. I'd have to say that the past 3 years I've spent manifesting different things in my life, and they have all come to pass. Every single part of it. So doing this, you know, who's to say it might happen within 6 months, or it might happen within the next 3 years and we get some amazing funding or grant for it, but it's not impossible.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the spirit. Excellent. Yeah. All in divine timing. Absolutely. Yeah. And just having trust, and also collectively, on a collective level, something that Cryon once said, and something that I agree with, is that there's two things that humanity could do with kind of working on at the moment: patience and humility. Those two things. And yeah, so divine timing. There we go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. Humility is huge. When I do my work, there is no ego involved. I make my ego take a back seat. I literally send it to another room. It's just not allowed to come out and play, only when it's something on a competitive level. If I'm outside trying to play softball or football, then yeah, the ego comes in and things happen. But with this work, I've learned that it's not suppressing it, but it's like, I need you to go to a different room while I'm working because I can't have that interfere. And I've seen a lot of healers and mediums and psychics who worry about competition, or worry about like their abilities. And I always like to address this, because I say that the people who need you and need your service will come to you regardless of any of those things. You know, even it would be like you and Isaac. We do different things. We're doing it for very similar reasons, but we do different things. So the people who need you will come to you, and the people who need me will come to me. And so I don't even look at that. I try to keep the ego way out of it. It just doesn't serve me.
Yes.
It doesn't serve me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Completely agree there. That's it. It goes against the entire grain of what we're brought up to believe and what to think, and how the universe works. So yeah, how confusing for so many of us, but what a liberating relief it is when we get through to the other end, or where we feel or believe the other end is. So okay,
Absolutely.
that was a really one of my favorite I haven't done many interviews, but this was one of my absolute favorites. So thank you so much for this timing, and
thank you.
Infinite blessings to you, and I wish you every success on your path. Thank you, and
likewise. Thank you. It's lots of love to you. It's been amazing and a wonderful pleasure, and one day I'll be back.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to it.
Quite right. Yeah, me too. That'd be really good. Excellent. Okay. Much love, Steph, and much love everybody watching this. So take care.
Bye bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye bye.